If the NFL said, Chris, what would you do? How would you prevent something that happened like that we saw in the Saints game in the Rams? Going forward, because it always takes a big play, controversial play, and then we have change. Is there enough controversy that the NFL is going to change how they would react to a call like you had in the Saints game or the non-call?
What do I know? I mean, the only thing that I'll tell you is for 25 years, however long I've been on television, I've been begging people to allow the pass interference to be reviewable. I go, there's only one call. There's only one call in the National Football League that changes games, that literally changes who wins and loses football games, and it's pass interference or non-pass interference. That's it. That's the only one. And when you're talking about those kinds of potential 50-yard penalties, and you can't review that, and the very essence of replay is supposed to take care of the call where everybody in the stadium and all 50 or 60 million people watching at home know that the call is wrong. They know the call is wrong. The poor official is sitting there on the field watching instant replay on the big board, probably for the 4,000th time. I'm sure they ran it and replayed it on that big screen up there. And even he knows it's wrong and they can't fix it. Well, that's a poor use of replay. And I think that as you're talking about ways to fix it, it's let them have two challenges no matter what it is. And the danger in that, Dan, is that every big play, right? So we're going to get a 60-yard run. And so what's Bill Belichick going to do? He's going to challenge the play because surely there's holding on there somewhere, right? But my opinion is, who cares? You get to use them where you want to use them. Take a chance if you want to on a big play. But it's really hard when the poor official sitting in the stadium knows he's wrong and can't fix it.
Can you help another official? That we see this in baseball sometimes, and I don't know in the moment. Could you have had an official come over and say, hey, you know what? We missed one here.
My son Jack turned to me immediately, and he goes, watch this, Dad. They're going to huddle up and change this call. And I was like, you know what? You're smarter than I am. That's exactly what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. Let me give you a little bit of the mechanics of what happens on those plays, just so people understand it, though. So there are 5 officials assigned to the 5 eligible receivers, okay? So they're going to follow that receiver no matter where he goes, and I'm sure they have a way of switching off on crossing routes. I don't know all the mechanics of it, but essentially there is one official whose only job is to watch that receiver. And so is it possible that nobody else saw it? Maybe, but you would think once the ball is in the air, your eyes are going to naturally go. And remember the umpire and the referee in the backfield, they're sort of looking diagonally across at the far tackle, that sort of angle. But you would think, and the referee who has to get in front of America and make the call, he's going to stay with the quarterback. So he's going to stay focused even after the ball's thrown. So he's not going to be able to see this. So it's really going to be up to one of those other officials who had a responsibility to watch their receiver, who then is going to have to swing over and look at that play and come in and have the guts to change it. Now, what I've always, if you're a conspiracy theorist, my theory was always that Al Riveron he wouldn't tell you this, but he really has access to that referee on the field, and he can click in and go, hey, why don't you guys huddle up on that one and see if anybody had a different opinion, which would be sort of code for we screwed that up. Yeah. Can we fix it before this thing gets out of control? But apparently they don't do that either. So it's a tough moment. The city of New Orleans, I'm sure, is heartbroken over it. Made a little bit easier by the fact that they did get the ball back at the end of the game and couldn't take advantage of it. But it's one that's going to live throughout the offseason.
Yeah, and that no call may cost some people their jobs. It cost a team and a city a chance to go to the Super Bowl again. I mean, I don't know if it brings about change, and I don't know if I have, just like you, I don't know if I have, an option here that makes this worthwhile, but maybe it is. You get 2 of those wild card challenges, and if the Saints had already used them, then they wouldn't have been able to go back. I just thought the officials would have. If you ask them now, should you guys have huddled up and actually made that decision to overturn that? And every one of those guys would probably go, yeah, you have the technology, or you at least had the people there, and they saw it and they knew it. And I agree. I think the head of officials has some kind of communication with the head official to say, take a look at it again, or huddle up, guys, because that was an egregious non-call there. So,
and what made it really interesting was that the receiver didn't pop up and immediately start screaming. And we all get tired of crybaby receivers and all that kind of stuff. But there comes that instantaneous moment where that official has to make a split-second decision that's going to decide who's going to go to the Super Bowl or not. You think about the pressure of that moment. And if the receiver isn't even arguing it, I think it tends to swing your thought process into maybe he really didn't do it in some way if you were leaning that way anyway.
That's interesting.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.